All right, so I'm going to go ahead and just do a quick parallel problem. I just went ahead and made it up. So what you're going to see is a parallelogram here, and I know it's a parallelogram. We got two opposite sides that are equal to each other. You can see that in the markings right there. So one marking, two markings, and two markings, and they are congruent, and therefore we have a parallelogram. Okay, and what we have is we're going to look for all the different angles. So I see this top angle is 75, this middle angle is 65, and this one is 32 right there. So we're going to go through a couple of definitions as we do this that you may recall from your other class. So hopefully you'll remember some of these things. So some of the things I would go over is we have two parallel lines right down here, and it's crossed by a transversal, and you can see it makes this nice Z. So you're using a parallel line, transversal, and a Z. This one is 32. This one is also 32. Okay. Something that you also or should remember is that when you have an X in the middle, if you have an X for two lines, well, then you have 65. This is also 65. That's called vertical angles. Okay. But in order to get there, another way of getting to that point, you could have said, well, I have a straight line right here through the middle. So we've got a straight line right here through the middle. So I could say, well, 180 is a straight line. We can subtract off 65, and that gives us the 115 that is needed. So we have 115. And then once again, we use that vertical angles. I've got 115 here. At that point, we could go ahead and say, well, I know if I look at this bottom triangle, I could say, okay, well, I got this bottom triangle right here okay, and I know that there are 180 degrees in a triangle, so I could say 180 minus 115, which we know is 65, and then I subtract off 32, this 32 right there, and I'm left with 33. So that means this has got to be 33. And once I know that, I can say, okay, well, if this is 33, I'm going to look for another Z, two parallel lines cut by a transversal. So let me just do that in a different color here, yellow. Okay, and you can see a Z. So I start on a parallel line, I transverse across, I start on end on another parallel line, makes that Z formation. So in the Z angles, I can put those angles right there, 33. Once I've got that, I can I can say, okay, well, I've got 75, 65. I've got another triangle over here. So I can say, okay, well, a triangle has 180 degrees. So I could take 180. We could subtract off 75. That's going to bring me to 105. I could subtract off 65. And that is going to bring me to 40. So that is 40. Okay. And then I know it's getting a little messy on there, but I can go ahead and I can look for another Z. So let me see if I can do that in a different color. Let's go with a dark green this time. There's a parallel line. There's a parallel line, and I can connect them, making another Z. Check that out. Another Z right there. And once I've got that Z, I go to the angles, parallel line, transversal, Z, this becomes 40, okay? And just based off of it, you can see this triangle right here and that triangle right here are congruent, they're the same. And so I'm gonna say, okay, well, 65, 40, this must be 75. Now, I know that's a little messy, there's a lot of stuff going on there, but you're really just looking for how angles are working, parallel lines, transversals, equal angles, and angles in a triangle adding up to 180.